My mother straightened my sister's graduation cap in the parking lot, while I stood 3 feet away holding my valedictorian speech. 15 pages, 6 months of writing and rewriting, the most important words I'd ever put together. My sister Brittany had graduated with a 2.4 GPA, no honors, no awards, switching majors 3 times and taking an extra semester to finish. I graduated summa cum laude, top of a class of 412 students, double major in biochemistry and English literature, published research, acceptance to Johns Hopkins Medical School. My father put his arm around Brittany and said, "This is it, sweetheart. We're so proud of you. You really made something of yourself." Then he glanced at me. "You too, Megan. Good job showing up." Showing up? Like I'd just attended. Like I hadn't worked 18-hour days for 4 years. Like I wasn't about to address 2,000 people as the top student in the university. I smiled, said thank you, felt something cold settle into my chest. An hour later, when Dean Harrison called my name and I walked to that podium, I looked out at the audience. My parents' seats were empty. They'd left after Brittany walked. Didn't stay for my speech, but Dean Harrison was there, front row, watching me with eyes that actually saw what I'd accomplished. That moment changed everything. Let me take you back, because this story isn't about a graduation speech. It's about if you've ever been the accomplished one who still couldn't get your family's attention, if you've ever stood on a stage wondering why the people who should be proudest aren't even in the room, you already know this isn't just my story. Brittany was 2 years older than me. Growing up in our house in suburban Denver, she was the sun and I was something orbiting at a distance. She had our mother's blonde hair, our father's easy charm, the kind of social magnetism that made everyone want to be near her. Teachers adored her even when she didn't turn in assignments. Boys called the house starting in 6th grade. She was homecoming princess freshman year, queen by senior year. Our refrigerator was covered in photos of her. Brittany at dances, Brittany with friends, Brittany smiling that effortless smile. I was the quiet one. Brown hair, glasses by age 8, braces by 11. I got straight A's from 1st grade on. Science fair ribbons went into a drawer because there was no room on the refrigerator. I learned early that excellence was expected from me, but never celebrated. It was just what Megan did. When I was 12 and Brittany was 14, she got caught shoplifting a lipstick from the mall. My parents sat her down, talked to her gently, took her for ice cream afterward to make sure she knew they still loved her. 3 months later, I got a B+ on an English paper, my first grade below an A in 2 years. My mother looked at it and said, "What happened? This isn't like you." No ice cream, no gentle conversation, just disappointment that I'd slipped from perfect to merely excellent. High school carved the differences deeper. Brittany floated through on charm and connections, easy classes, minimum effort, parties and boyfriends. I took every AP class offered, joined academic decathlon, started a tutoring program for underclassmen. Junior year, I scored 1590 on the SAT, top 1% in the nation. My father said, "That's great, honey." Without looking up from his phone, he was texting Brittany about her weekend plans. College applications came senior year. Brittany was already at State University, majoring in communications, which meant parties with occasional class attendance. I applied to 12 schools, got into 11, including 3 Ivy League. When the would come to events, would see what I was building. They visited twice in 4 years, once for freshman move-in, once for Brittany's graduation when she finally finished her 5th year. They never saw my dorm room after freshman year, never met my professors, never came to a single award ceremony. Freshman year, I made Dean's List both semesters, joined the Biochemistry Honors Society, Started working in a research lab. My roommate's parents sent her flowers when she made Dean's List. My parents sent a text with a thumbs up emoji. Brittany was on academic probation. My parents drove up twice that semester to make sure she was okay. Sophomore year, I co-authored a research paper that got published. My name, in print, contributing to scientific knowledge. I called home to tell them. My mother said that was nice, then asked if I'd heard Brittany had changed her major to marketing. She was really finding herself. I got published. Brittany changed majors for the second time. Guess which warranted a 2-hour conversation. Junior year, I was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa, National Honor Society, top students in the country. Brittany's third apartment in 3 years because she kept fighting with roommates. My Phi Beta Kappa induction happened with me sitting alone, watching other students hug their families. Senior year, I was nominated for Valedictorian. Top GPA in the graduating class. 4 years of perfect grades, research, leadership, service. When I called to tell my parents, my father congratulated me, then asked if I'd heard Brittany would finally be graduating. His voice had more excitement about Brittany passing a class than about me being named the top student in my university. Brittany's graduation was 2 weeks before mine. My parents drove 4 hours to watch her walk. Took 100 photos, posted on Facebook about their pride, their daughter the college graduate. Took her to fancy dinner. Bought her a new laptop. My graduation was on a Saturday in late May. I'd written my speech over 6 months, revised it dozens of times, practiced it for my roommate who cried when she heard it. It was about persistence, about showing up when no one's watching, about finding your worth in your work when external validation doesn't come. It was, without me fully realizing it, about my entire life. The morning of graduation, my parents drove in from Denver. I met them in the parking lot, already in my regalia, my honor cords heavy around my neck. 5 different cords, more than anyone else in my class. Summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, research honors, department honors, service leadership. My mother looked at them and said, "That's a lot of necklaces." Not what they meant, not what I'd done to earn them, just that there were a lot of them. Brittany was there too. She'd driven separately, showed up in a sundress, taking selfies by the university sign. My parents gravitated to her immediately, fixing her hair, adjusting her outfit, fussing over her like she was the one graduating. I stood there holding my speech, watching my father tell Brittany how proud he was she'd finished her degree. She was working retail, entry level. $12 an hour. I had been accepted to Johns Hopkins Medical School. But sure, let's celebrate the retail job. "We should head in," I said. "I need to be backstage early." My mother nodded absently. "We'll find our seats. Brittany, honey, let's get good ones so we can see you walk." I stared at her. "I'm the one graduating," I said. "I know, sweetie. We'll see you up there." She wasn't even looking at me. I went backstage, sat in the waiting area with the other speakers, the deans, the faculty marshals. My hands were shaking. Not from nerves about the speech. From the slow realization that even valedictorian wasn't going to be enough. They were here for Brittany. They just happened to be at my graduation. Dean Harrison found me 20 minutes before the ceremony. She was a tall woman, silver-haired, with presence that made you stand straighter. She'd been the way my parents looked at Brittany like she'd hung the moon and looked at me like I was furniture. I didn't cry. I was past crying. I just told her the facts in a flat voice. Dean Harrison listened. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I've been in education for 32 years. I've seen thousands of students. What you've accomplished here is exceptional. Not good. Exceptional. You are one of the finest students I've ever worked with. Your parents may not see it, but I do. This entire faculty does. Today, when you stand on that stage, you will be speaking to everyone who has ever felt unseen despite their achievements. That matters. You matter. I looked at her, this woman who had no obligation to me beyond her job, who had chosen to sit with me and say what my parents never had. "Thank you," I said. My voice cracked. She squeezed my hand. "Now, let's go show them what excellence actually looks like." The ceremony started at 10. 2,000 graduates, 4,000 family members, a sea of caps and gowns under the May sun. I was seated on stage with the other speakers, facing the crowd. I found my parents by Brittany's blonde hair. My mother was leaning over to talk to her. My father was on his phone. The university president gave opening remarks. Honorary degrees were conferred. Then Dean Harrison took the podium. It is my privilege to introduce this year's Valedictorian. In my 32 years at this university, I have never written a recommendation letter like the one I wrote for this young woman. Her academic achievements are extraordinary, but what sets her apart is her character. She has conducted groundbreaking research while mentoring younger students. She has maintained a perfect GPA while working 2 jobs. She was accepted to Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, where she will no doubt become the kind of doctor who changes lives. Ladies and gentlemen, your valedictorian, Megan Sullivan. I stood. The applause was loud, genuine, 2,000 people clapping. I walked to the podium, looked out at the crowd, and found my parents' seats. They were empty. Brittany was gone too. All 3 of them, just gone. They'd left. In the middle of Dean Harrison's introduction. Hadn't stayed to hear me speak. Hadn't stayed to watch their daughter address the graduating class. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The microphone was in front of me. 2,000 people were waiting, and my family had left. Then I looked at Dean Harrison. She was in the front row now, exactly where my parents should have been. She nodded at me. Just a small nod. "You've got this." I took a breath. Then another. And I began to speak. I talked about being the person who shows up when no one's watching, about finding validation in your own work because you can't control what others value, about the quiet persistence of excellence, the way success isn't a single moment but thousands of invisible ones. I talked about the late nights in the library, the failed experiments before the successful ones, the mentors who believed in me when I forgot to believe in myself. I didn't mention my parents. Everyone who'd ever felt unseen knew exactly what I was talking about. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. I saw people crying. Dean Harrison was crying. My roommate, somewhere in the crowd, was on her feet. I walked back to my seat, and the ceremony continued, and I felt something strange settling in my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Something that felt like the closing of a door. After the ceremony, while everyone else was hugging family, I stood alone by the stage. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Sorry we had to leave early. Brittany wasn't feeling well, probably the heat. You can meet us for food if you want." Congrats again. Brittany wasn't feeling well, so they left my valedictorian speech for my sister's mild discomfort. I didn't respond. Dean Harrison found me again. "That was magnificent. I meant every word up there, and you proved it tenfold." "My parents left," I said. She nodded. "I know. I saw. Their loss, Megan. Literally. They will never get back the moment they missed. That's not your burden. That's theirs." She handed me a folder. "My recommendation letter. The one I sent to Johns Hopkins. Read it when you forget what you're worth. Because you will forget sometimes." I opened it later in my dorm room while everyone else was at parties. 4 pages detailing every achievement. But the last paragraph made me cry. I have been asked to evaluate Megan Sullivan's potential as a physician. The question is almost laughable. Megan Sullivan will not simply be a physician. She will be the kind of doctor who transforms her field. In 3 decades of teaching, I have written hundreds of recommendation letters. I have never written one like this. Because I have never encountered a student like this. If there is a student I would trust with my own life, it is Megan Sullivan. Someone had finally seen me. Really seen me. And she'd written it down so I would never forget. That summer, I didn't go home. Stayed on campus. Worked in the lab. My parents called once to ask when I was visiting. I said I was busy. My mother sounded surprised. Brittany's having a birthday barbecue. It would mean a lot to her if you came. I can't, I said. I have work. You can't take one weekend off? I took 4 years off, I said. 4 years of waiting for you to show up for me. You left my graduation. You left my valedictorian speech. I think I'll be busy for a while. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. Medical school was everything I'd worked for. Hard. Brutal sometimes. But surrounded by people who valued excellence, I thrived. Top of my class first year. Research fellowships second year. By third year, I was being recruited by competitive residency programs. I was going to be exactly what Dean Harrison predicted. My parents reached out occasionally. Birthday texts, holiday messages. I responded briefly, politely, distantly. I didn't share my achievements. They didn't ask. They still talked about Brittany, who had been promoted to assistant manager at the clothing store. Match day came in my 4th year. The day medical students find out where they'll do residency. Said she'd never doubted it. Then I texted my parents. Matched at Mass General for surgery. My mother responded 2 hours later. That's great. Brittany just got engaged. We're all so excited. Call when you can. My match at the best hospital in America got 1 sentence. Brittany's engagement got 4. Residency was 5 years of controlled chaos, 80-hour weeks, life and death decisions. I didn't break. I refined, became sharper, more precise. My attending started giving me complex cases. By 4th year, I was publishing research, presenting at conferences, getting recruited by academic medical centers. Brittany's wedding was in my 3rd year. I went. The rehearsal dinner was 2 hours of toasts to Brittany. Nobody mentioned I was a surgeon. Nobody asked about my work. My mother introduced me as Brittany's sister, like that was my identifier. Not doctor, not surgeon. Just the appendage. I left early. Said I had an early flight. I didn't. I just couldn't sit there any longer, invisible at my own sister's wedding. My mother caught me at the door. You're leaving already? Brittany won't notice, I said. She hasn't noticed me in 30 years. My mother's face hardened. That's not fair. We've always treated you girls equally. You turned my bedroom into a craft room while I was in college. You left my valedictorian speech. That's not equal. I left before she could respond. 2 years later, I finished residency. Top of my class again. Got recruited by 3 academic medical centers. Chose to stay at Mass General as attending surgeon with a Harvard Medical School faculty appointment. 32 years old. Harvard faculty. Everything I'd ever worked for. I called Dean Harrison. She was retired now, living in Arizona. I knew it, she said. You were always going to become this. I just got to watch. I thanked her. Told her she'd given me what my parents never had. I didn't tell my parents about the attending position. Didn't tell them about Harvard. They'd give me 30 seconds before steering back to Brittany. She was pregnant now, and every text was about nursery colors. The call came in October. My father's voice, shaky. My mother had collapsed. Stroke. She needed surgery. High risk. "You're a surgeon," he said. "What do I do?" I walked him through it, found out who her surgeon was, told him she was in good hands. He started crying. "Can you come? Your mother needs you." I flew to Denver that night. The surgery took 7 hours. She looked at me and said slowly, "I'm sorry." Graduation. We left. I don't know why. We should have stayed. I looked at her. This woman who had overlooked me for 30 years, finally saying what I'd needed to hear. "It's okay," I said. "I didn't mean it." "No," she said. "Not okay. You were valedictorian. We missed it. I know we failed you." A tear slid down her cheek. "You were always so capable. You never seemed to need us. Brittany needed us. So we gave her everything. I didn't realize we were giving you nothing." The excuse I'd heard my whole life, repackaged. Your competence was your punishment. But hearing it from my mother in a hospital bed, it landed differently. "I needed you," I said. "I just stopped showing it because it never got me anywhere." She reached for my hand. "I want to know everything I missed. Tell me." So I told her. The research, the publications, Mass General, Harvard, Dean Harrison's letter. She listened, cried quietly, said, "I'm so proud of you," more times than she'd said in my entire childhood. It wasn't forgiveness, it was information, finally flowing where it never had before. My mother knowing who I actually was. My mother recovered. We talk now, more than we used to. She asks about my work, actually listens. My father does too. Something shifted after the stroke. They finally see me. Not as Brittany's shadow, just as Megan. I still have Dean Harrison's recommendation letter, framed now, hanging in my office at Mass General. Patients ask about it. I tell them it's from the most important teacher I ever had. The woman who stood in the front row when my parents' seats were empty and nodded at me like I could conquer the world. She was right. I could. I did. If you've ever been the capable one who got less because you needed less, this story is for you. Tell me, sometimes the most powerful moment isn't the applause. It's looking down at the empty seats where your parents should have been and deciding to give the speech anyway.